We'll start, Alex, as we usually do, with some higher owned players. But, if you're in a 10 or 12 team league, some guys who might be out there, Jaime Jaquez is somebody I want to mention. He's still under 40% rostered right now in ESPN leagues. If you're in a competitive format, you're shaking your head right now saying, yeah, we know. But Jaquez has played really well over the last 3 games. Obviously, those have included no Jimmy Butler. His suspension will be up, by the end of next week. I don't know if Jimmy Butler is actually going to play at the end of that. I don't know if we're going to have a resolution. I mean, we're less than a month out from the trade deadline. It certainly feels to me like he's going to be moved. But we do have to keep in mind that in that scenario, with how this trade would have to go down, Miami's not a cap space team. You're bringing back pieces, right? So even if Jimmy Butler, let's say, is traded a week from now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Jaime Jaquez is just looking at 34 minutes a game the rest of the way. With that said, at least for the next week, he still gets a boost for me.
I feel the same way about Nikola Jovic, who's 26% rostered. He's pretty hit or miss, as has been Jaquez for a lot of the season. But Jovic's past 9 games, 13-4-4, with about a steal on some efficient shooting. So someone to certainly consider for the short term.
Yeah, I didn't have too much else for this category. Gradey Dick is still having his moments, but Toronto is finally at full strength. And, accordingly, we saw him play just 20 minutes the other night against the New York Knicks. Didn't play very well in that game either. I think with Barrett back, with Quickley back, with Poeltl still doing his thing, Scotty Barnes, of course, is healthy. I don't know that there's a ton of room right now for Gradey Dick in anything but really deep leagues. Christian Braun is still hovering under 50% rostered. Absolutely grab him in just about every format right now. He continues to play really well, still giving you steals, giving you blocks as a guard. Scoring for him has been pretty consistent. Did you have anybody else who's kind of above our usual threshold?
Not necessarily. I will say, the highest rostered guy on my list is Toumani Camara, who's 28% rostered on Yahoo. He's benefiting from some pretty hot shooting lately, but it's still, past 5 games, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. But really, you're looking for the 1.8 steals and the half a block he's giving you, and he can go through some hot and cold stretches. But this Portland roster, they're always dealing with some sort of injury on the wing, and it really seems like his minutes are some of the stickiest minutes actually on the Trailblazers.
Which is saying a lot, because that is a rotation that feels like it's changing every single night. I want to throw out Andrew Nembhard, who is about 10% rostered right now in ESPN leagues. And I've never been the biggest Nembhard guy. Obviously had his borderline magical run. I wouldn't say full magical run in the postseason last year when the Pacers were banged up, but he's played fairly well of late. I mean, the scoring hasn't been fantastic. He's been in the starting lineup now for a little over a full month. And you get the 15, 17, 19 point games. You also get the 6, 8, 9 point type of games, but he's still giving you rebounds. He's still giving you assists at a pretty good clip. He's been racking up steals lately. 3-point shooting does tend to come and go for him, but overall, last 10 games, 14 points, 5 assists, over 4 rebounds per game, bumping up close to a steal. I think in a deeper format, he's somebody I would look at.
I agree. I mean, Indiana's changed their offense a little bit. It's a little less Tyrese Halliburton centric. Nembhard's got basically a 2% usage bump compared to last year, and they seem to really trust him. I mean, he was playing so well in the playoffs last year. I think he just has so much sort of clout, for lack of a better term, with the organization that he's going to continue playing 30 minutes every single night.
Can I interest you in any Guerschon Yabusele, who's been starting for the 76ers? I mean, they're still, we're almost at the halfway mark, and somebody's out every single night for the Sixers, whether it's Paul George or more frequently Joel Embiid. They've also been down Andre Drummond the last couple of games, so we've seen Yabusele playing some center. We got to be aware of what the limitations are here, as far as when Embiid is out there, there's not that same ceiling, but he's still been seeing pretty consistent minutes in this rotation. Last 10 for him, 13 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 1.7 combined steals and blocks. He's also hitting over 2 threes per game in that span, and he's doing it on pretty good percentages.
Yeah, he's being leaned on a ton, like you mentioned. Philly can't stay healthy, whether it's the main guys or role players. And Yabusele is solid. If you're getting 20 mid-20s minutes out of him, I think he can be rostered in most formats. And you're going to have to weather some ups and downs based on who's available. But, when he plays big minutes, he can have, real pop games. Take a look at Max Christie. I think we mentioned him last week, just like a category league streamer. Really can't go wrong there. Digging a little bit deeper, Max Strus for the Cavaliers. We had that great game between the Cavs and and the Thunder last night. He's 9% rostered right now. In Yahoo leagues, I would not be surprised if that roster rate doubles soon. Past 4 games for Strus, which is really when he's found his form after missing some time to begin the year with a pretty bad ankle sprain. Past 4 games, averaging 11 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. I brought a block actually in 25 minutes per game, which is like, it's all compared to what he did last year. It's about the same. So he's basically back into the form that he was last season. And I think he should be rostered on definitely 16 team leagues. And I would consider even standard 12 teamers.
Let's do our weekly Brooklyn Nets corner. This is a team that continues to be racked by injuries. Noah Clowney, I think, is at the top of the list. Played really well last night, had the best game of his season, probably the best game of his career. I know you've already been rostering him for like a month in all your leagues. So if you're playing in a league with Alex Barutha, good luck. He's not out there. But Clowney, I think, deserves some interest. Ziaire Williams has started 3 games in a row, but again, we got to be aware of just the sheer number of injuries we're dealing with here. I mean, D'Angelo Russell's missed time, Ben Simmons, Cam Johnson, Trendon Watford, even Derek Whitehead, Cam Thomas, like all these guys are missing time. I hate to say, you kind of have to take it game to game. Some of these guys are out a little bit longer than others. We're not really sure as far as Johnson and Russell and Simmons go. So it's not a full-throated endorsement of Ziaire Williams, but he's at least doing something. He's doing something. Like I said, he started 3 games in a row. He scored in double figures in all 3 of those. 13 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, a steal, almost a block per game in that span. Very, very small sample, but he has taken over 6 threes per game in that span as well. So if those injuries persist, if you're in a daily moves league, wouldn't mind sliding him into the lineup, but probably not a long-term guy.
Yeah, I don't mind adding some of these Brooklyn guys, on speculation because, again, their injury situation is bad. At the same time, like every game this continues, the window I think closes slowly, and I've been sort of hesitant picking them up now because you mentioned it. It's like, well, what if D'Lo, Ben Simmons, and Cam Johnson all come back in like 2 games, and then it's just a lot of these guys get the value gone. But it's a perfect thing to do for daily leagues if you need a streamer. Is just grab someone on the Brooklyn Nets.
I still have Jalen Smith on my list. Current production doesn't necessarily warrant an ad. The rebounds have been the most consistent. He's given you some lower end scoring, but if I have a roster spot, especially in a deeper league, I don't mind adding him on the speculation that Vucevic could get traded. We're under a month to the trade deadline, so I think it is time to start thinking about that. If you're looking for a hot streak guy, all of a sudden Gary Trent has risen from the dead. He's been shooting it well for Milwaukee. Chris Middleton coming off the bench, and a few more shots have been available for him. Dame has missed a little bit of time. You're always riding the wave with Gary Trent. I feel like every time I pick him up, I'm doing it at the end of a hot streak. But he's played well of late. So somebody who is available if you're in need of threes. I think you can look at Jaden Hardy in Dallas right now. We're trying to piece together, all right, who's going to pick up all this production with no Luka, no Kyrie. Daniel Gafford's banged up now. Not going to tell you not to grab Najee Marshall. Not going to tell you not to look at Quentin Grimes. But Jaden Hardy is a stat stuffer, man. Like, not somebody who necessarily needs 32 to 35 minutes to get his points. You look at the last 4 games for him, he's only playing about 22 minutes per game, still giving you 14.5 points.
Hardy's on my list. Dallas and Brooklyn, 2 good places to look if you're in a deep league for guys to fill out your roster. Yeah, Hardy, it seems like, he's a guy who just has not been able to earn the trust of Jason Kidd over the past couple years, but the injuries have just forced Kidd's hand. And so if Hardy's going to see 20 minutes a game, he's going to take a shot every 2 minutes that he's on the court, basically. And he'll have some good games.
I also have Julian Strawther on the list in Denver. Last 5 games for him, 13 points, 4 boards, 2.5 threes per game. He's playing about 28 minutes in that span. The absence of Aaron Gordon has certainly helped. So that's the kind of the big swing piece. I mean, Strawther's going to be in the rotation no matter what, but I think we're going to see a lower ceiling once Gordon comes back, which could be as soon as later this week. They're off on Thursday. They play Friday against Brooklyn and then Sunday against Dallas. But if Aaron Gordon does miss more time, I wouldn't mind sliding Strawther in there for a game or 2. What do we make of the Phoenix Suns, by the way? That news came after a lot of waiver runs on Sunday night. So we didn't necessarily get a chance to pounce on that in a lot of the leagues that you and I play in. But do you have any Ryan Dunn interest? Are you rushing to the waiver wire to grab Mason Plumlee?
Well, they were on a 5-game week, or this week is a 5-game week for them that we have gone through. But for people in daily leagues, the bulk of that is kind of over now. So if you picked up Ryan Dunn and you're in a daily league, you probably just drop him again at this point. And their rotation is a complete mess. Tyus Jones has not been playing well at all. We're seeing a lot more passing out of Devin Booker. But like for a team like the Suns, it's just I don't know what you do, man. Nurkic is like one night he's a drop, the next night it's like you gotta pick him back up because he'll probably have 20 rebounds. So it's more frustrating and confusing than anything.
Yeah, even with Ryan Dunn, it's like the defensive numbers have not been at the level that I thought they would be. Somebody who just put up crazy per minute steals and blocks at the college level. Like he's been fine. He had a couple 2-block games last week, but despite moving into the starting lineup, like we have not seen some sort of immediate bump. I think if you didn't know he was starting, it's like the minutes have been slightly up, but not that much. He started a stretch of games earlier in the season as well. So it's not like he's going from a complete non-factor to somebody who's playing 35 minutes a game. I think this is a situation where the starting designation doesn't necessarily matter as much as the Chris Hayneses of the world would have made us think that it would when that news broke on Sunday.
I always look forward to those Haynes briefs that come out. I will say one guy I do want to mention on the Washington Wizards, talk about another team dealing with the tongue injuries. Jared Butler kind of came out of nowhere.
Sure.
So Jordan Poole's been out the past 3 games. They've elevated Jared Butler, who was an early second-round pick from 2021. Actually, a ton of, when these guys kind of come out of nowhere, I like to do the little like background of like, here's who this guy is, by the way, because you probably never heard of him. As a senior in college, All-American first team, Big 12 all defense, ton of pedigree. But the past 3 games for him, 19 points per game, 6 assists in 21 minutes. He is shooting 60% from 3. That will come down. But per 36, the past 2 seasons with Washington, 19 points and 8 assists and 1.5 steals. So he may go back to playing like 8 minutes, be sort of out of the rotation when Washington is completely healthy. But this is someone I think if you're in a deep league, maybe even a standard league, you should just put him on your watch list just to see what happens after the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think you said it. If they do clean house, whatever that even means for the Wizards, I think he is somebody that could see a bump. And like you said, great college player at Baylor. It was just one of those classic, like, everybody acknowledges that he's great in college, but probably won't play all that much in the NBA. But we're seeing it, man. 26 points in 20 minutes the other night against the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm going to throw out Trey Lyles as well. Just a super depressing player to add. Somebody who's always, he's on one of my rosters at some point throughout the season. And much like Gary Trent, I feel like I'm always timing the market wrong on him. But the rebounding's been pretty consistent for Lyles. And, after going through a stretch where he missed time, missed a lot of December, was playing reasonable minutes early in the year, he's now played at least 20 minutes in 7 straight games. He's averaging over 24 minutes in that span, giving you 11.5 points, 6.5 rebounds. Really doesn't give you much else. You might get some steals every now and then, but he's not really a shot blocker. He does shoot threes, however. Pretty much everything he does offensively is like corner threes. He's kind of the new Harrison Barnes for them in some ways. And he's taken over 5 threes per game in those last 7, hitting 2.4 at a 46% clip.
Yeah, I mean, Keegan Murray missed time. De'Aaron Fox has been missing time. And, Lyles is a guy who they'll just play at backup center if it's a small ball situation against the team that they're facing. And there are really only so many backup center minutes available for Sacramento. But yeah, just he's been more consistent lately and seems to be potentially a beneficiary of the coaching change. So if you're in a daily moves league, which I know a lot of people are, so there are 3 teams that play 5 times from this Saturday through next Saturday. And those teams are the Rockets, the Timberwolves, and the Suns. I don't know what the Suns did to earn all this crazy 2-week stretch, but basically anybody that's a competent rotation player on the Rockets, Timberwolves, or Suns, if you're in a daily league, you can certainly stream them in.
All right, there we have it. Great schedule notes, as always, from our senior NBA editor, Alex Barutha. Good stuff, man. Hopefully we get some more exciting waiver wire ads over the next couple of weeks here, but we're grinding leading up to the trade deadline and should only heat up over these next few weeks. But those are our waiver wire ads for the week ahead. As always, if you're enjoying these videos, please give us a like. Please make sure you're subscribed to the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball YouTube channel. Go check out the main RotoWire channel as well. You can find a lot of football content there, but all of our basketball content housed right here on RotoWire Fantasy Basketball. You can find all of our podcasts live and archived. We got them timestamped. You can skip through. You can kind of listen to whatever you want out of those. You can, of course, find them wherever you get your podcasts as well, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But again, please make sure you're subscribed. RotoWire Fantasy Basketball.